retiring early, having financial independence, having financial security, tax benefits and passive income, all things you won't get from just sticking your money in a savings account. Hey everyone, and welcome to The Savvy Squaddy. In this video, I want to show you why you should invest some of your hard-earned money consistently throughout your life. I have mentioned that this year I want to create more videos on the topic of investing to help many of you overcome that initial hurdle so you can get stuck in, and this will be a good starting point. I should also say, I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. I'm just some guy on the internet making videos. Do your own research, and if you want that warm fuzzy feeling inside, seek professional advice, especially before you chase the next meme coin or some other hyped up speculative financial bet like GameStop. Whatever happened to NFTs, by the way? Now, if those terms sound familiar to you, then I hope you weren't caught up in the hype of paying thousands for JPEGs on the internet. And if you haven't heard of those words before, then all you've missed is a lot of people chasing hype and losing money in things they don't really understand. But don't let that scare you off. This video, as well as both my previous and future ones, will help you understand investing and keep you from making the same mistakes many have made before. If you haven't already, watch my investing playlist where I have videos on investing basics, compound interest, index funds and more. I will mention these concepts in this video, but will not be going into as much detail as I do in those ones. Right, when I mention the word investing, what feelings does that conjure up? Fear, frustration, distrust, even anxiety? Perhaps you have negative feelings and perceptions around investing because you might be old enough to remember the dot-com bubble bursting, or the 2008 financial crisis, or more recently the short-lived crash that happened during the plague, and the damage this has caused to many people and their livelihoods. Whilst all of these periods saw double-digit dips in the stock market, guess what? It still recovered. It may have taken time, but history has shown that recovery is the norm, not the exception. Perhaps you might also be familiar with the names of Charles Ponzi, Bernie Madoff, Sam Bankman-Fried, Jordan Belfort, Elizabeth Holmes, and Trevor Milton, just to name a few. These people have collectively defrauded billions from investors, so I can understand why you might be skeptical of sticking your money into the stock market. But whilst there are wolves in sheep's clothing who exploit trust and greed, their actions shouldn't overshadow the benefits of investing. Just like the few bad apples within a regiment doesn't represent everyone in it. So before we get into 3 reasons why you need to invest, I first want to quickly mention a few things you should do before putting your money to work in the stock market. First up, conduct a financial audit, create a financial plan, and set some financial goals. Not sure how to do that? Then check out this video where I audit my 2023 spending. If you have a clear destination, it makes the journey much easier. Next, pay off any short-term debt. The interest rates on these debts will often be higher than the returns you would get in the stock market, so come up with a plan and get rid of it. I've done a whole video on debt which I will link below. Then create an emergency fund. This is a pot of money kept in a savings account which contains 3 to 6 months living expenses. This way, should something unexpected happen to you, you are financially prepared, safe and secure. Often people would then say contribute to your pension. However, those of us in the armed forces do not contribute to ours. But the option is there if you want to. I have made a whole video on this and compared it to investing to see which is best. A link for that is below. And lastly, understand your risk tolerance. Investing is not risk-free and certain assets carry more risk than others. Generally, there is a trade-off between risk and reward. The lower the risk, the lower the reward, and vice versa. But this is something that can be applied to almost anything in life, not just investing. Younger people can usually take on more risk than the older folk because they have more time to ride the inevitable ups and downs of the stock market. More speculative assets and individual stocks will be riskier than passive funds and bonds. But this can be mitigated by investing in what you know. If you can't explain it, then you shouldn't be invested in it. For those of you who own some crypto, can you honestly say that you would be able to explain the blockchain? I bet even some of you now are like, what's the blockchain? Now, of course some of you can, but many of you can't, in which case you are taking on a lot of risk if you own crypto. Only invest what you can afford to lose. That way, should you take on a risky investment and it goes to zero, the lifestyle of you and your family are not impacted, but your ego might be. If my own portfolio went to zero tomorrow, I'd of course be pretty upset and fuming, but we wouldn't notice a difference in our day-to-day lives. To help mitigate risk, a good rule of thumb is that if you require the money in less than 5 years, then stick it in a high interest savings account. However, if you won't need it for more than 5 years, then invest it. Right, once you have all of that done, you can start taking investing more seriously. But why should you take it seriously? Why should you invest? Well, one reason is to grow your wealth. Now, I know in some circles this might be seen as a dirty word. All I'd say is, if you see money, finances, wealth, etc. as a negative and no one should have it, then your mindset is wrong and you really need to work on that. Because if you don't and you continue to have thoughts like wealthy people are evil, or they've stolen it from someone, or they provide no value, they don't do any of the work, etc., then I'm sorry to say, but you will forever remain a broke-ass motherfucker. I have made a video which can help change your mindset, which I will link below. The sad reality is, if you don't fix this, then it will hold you back. Wealth isn't about amassing a Scrooge McDuck-sized pile of gold. It's about building an impregnable fortress that shields you from life's unexpected attacks. Every pound saved, each wise investment made, is a brick laid in the foundation of your financial security. This fortress grants you the freedom to maneuver through life's challenges, to weather any storm without sacrificing your goals or well-being. Investing not only preserves wealth, but grows it for both you, your spouse, and your future generations. Many of the wealthiest people in the world are there because of the investments that they have made throughout their life. Now, they are the wealthiest because they have taken on huge risk and have been rewarded. But we only ever read about the success stories, so please don't think that if you take on a huge risk, that you will be successful and wealthy. This is why it's so important to understand your risk tolerance and know what you are investing in. The next reason to invest is to beat inflation. We've recently experienced and are still in some high inflation rates, which has certainly been detrimental to many aspects of our lives. Cost of living has rocketed up and we are all feeling it in our day-to-day lives. If you didn't know what inflation was before the plague, I'm sure you do now. From 1990 to 2022, the average annual inflation rate in the UK was 2.74%, but during the same period, the S&P 500, a fund that tracks the top 500 companies in the US, had an average annual return of 9.92% or 7.18% after inflation. Leaving your money under the mattress is damaging to its purchasing power as inflation erodes it, but investing it instead grows that money and beats inflation. But perhaps you think you'll save that money instead of investing it, as sticking it in a bank is safer, right? Well, check out this chart which compares the savings and inflation rate in the UK from 1990 to 2022. You can see that in the 90s and early 2000s, saving money certainly beat out inflation. But in the last decade or so, that has not been the case. And even then, since 1990, the average savings account rate has been around 4.29%, whilst the return of the S&P 500 in that same period has been 9.92%. £100 stuck in a savings account in 1990 would be close to £400 in 2022. But if that same £100 was instead invested in 1990, it would be nearly £2,400 in 2022. And if instead you kept that £100 under your mattress all that time, it would have the purchasing power of £35.68 in 2022. If you want your savings to grow over time, you will need to earn a return that beats inflation, and investing long term is a tried and true method of doing that. And the final and probably most important reason you should be investing is for retirement. Now, I know many of you watching are young and retirement is a long way off. But in case you didn't know, when you retire, you stop working. And if you are not working, where does the money come from that you require to carry on surviving? If you are serving, then you'll have an armed forces pension, which depending on how long you have served, could be quite a bit. Certainly nothing to be sniffed at, even with the AFPS 15, despite what the ill-informed dullards say. And if it's still around, you'll also receive the state pension. This might be enough for you, but it may not. It's hard to tell as retirement is a long way off, and many things can happen between now and then. So why not take this seriously and start preparing now? I've made a whole video on why you should take your pension seriously. It is probably one of the most important videos I have made to date. Check it out, a link will be below. The younger you are, the better position you are in to reap the rewards of compounding. A little bit invested now will pay dividends in years to come, and future you will be grateful. And guess what? The sooner you start, the quicker you can retire. Because if you find that in your 50s the returns on your investments are good enough to live off, then you could retire. You can also claim your armed forces pension early at age 55, but it will be a smaller amount due to it being paid out over a longer period of time. The sooner you start investing, the sooner you could be able to retire and enjoy all that wealth you have managed to accumulate. The stark reality is that more and more people are not staying in the military for a full career, meaning that their pension will not be as good as it could have been. If you are one of these individuals, then you really need to make sure you are paying into a pension, whether that be a civilian workplace one or a personal one. Do you really want to still be working in your 70s and 80s just so you can pay the bills and put food on the table? Well, if you don't plan for retirement, then that will be you. It's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's necessary. And just so you're aware, many workplace and personal pensions are already invested in the stock market to help them grow over time. This means that even if you don't actively invest yourself, a chunk of your retirement savings is already exposed to market fluctuations. Now, whilst this might not be applicable to the Armed Forces pension, you won't be serving forever and will most likely take up future employment where you will be enrolled onto their pension scheme, so it's important to bear in mind. Have a look at this chart. At the end of the 2022 financial year, the average income for a pensioner was £349 per week, or around £1,500 a month, or £18,148 a year. What do you make of that? Is that enough? Would it be enough for you? Personally, I don't think it is. It might be enough to just about get by in retirement, but certainly not to enjoy it. Now, the Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association has set out the official retirement living standards, and this £18,000 annual income is less than what they deem necessary to meet the minimum living standards in retirement as a couple. If you are single going into retirement, then this £18,000 is enough to have an almost moderate lifestyle, but I'm going to stick with retired couples for my examples, and even if you strive to meet these standards and are single when retirement comes around, then you'll be even better off. You can see in more detail on this table what they estimate the spending to be for some of the main expense categories. You'll notice that they don't mention rent or mortgage, and that is because they assume that you will own your house outright at this point. So naturally, you will need to increase this number if you are still renting or paying a mortgage when you come to retire. Now, I would like to think you would all like to at least aim for a moderate lifestyle in retirement, in which you will need an annual household income of £34,000. Well, currently state pension is over £10,000 a year, but you're still short 24 grand. Where will this extra come from? Hopefully, part of it will come from your workplace pension. Using my own pension forecast as an example, if I serve a full career and leave as a W01, my projected annual pension will be £21,236 from state pension age onwards. And that brings me quite close to that recommended amount for a moderate lifestyle. Chances are my wife will have a pension too, both workplace and state, so together we should be pretty sorted. Might even make it to the recommended comfortable lifestyle amount of £54,500 per year. So why bother investing if state pension and my full army career pension plus my spouse's pensions make up the amount? Well, there's a few reasons why. An obvious one is that you may not be married when you get into retirement, whether that be through death or divorce. And if it's the latter, then there could be a pension sharing order involved, which will decrease your pension income. Another reason is that state pension may not exist as it does today when you come to retire, and so should not be relied upon. Also, we all get old and die. Either you or your partner will kick the bucket first, and then the surviving spouse has lost a good deal of income. Having passive investment income will help offset this. Another thing to note with state pension is if it does stick around, the age will keep on increasing. Currently, for someone my age, it is 68, but this will undoubtedly increase and most likely be in the 70s by the time I come to retire. And the AFPS 15 pays out at state pension age, and so the goalpost will keep moving. Personally, I want to retire before my 60s, and so investing now will allow me to do that in the future. But also, my 21k AFPS 15 income is if I stay in for 24 years and make it to the rank of Warrant Officer Class 1. An outcome very likely for me at my current rate, but guess what? Most people don't serve a full career or make it to W01, and whilst at the moment I intend on serving a full career, things change and I may end up leaving, which would reduce my pension. For example, if I leave at my 12-year point, my projected annual pension at state pension age will reduce to £8,564, around a 60% decrease. This plus state pension puts me back in the minimum standard of living before taking into account any extra income from my spouse. This is why you need to be investing. You can't just rely on your workplace pension and state pension. Having multiple streams of income in retirement will make you financially safe, stable and secure. And if you use a stocks and shares ISA, the income you withdraw from it will be tax-free. I have a whole video on ISAs, a link will be below. I know the majority of you watching are under the age of 35, so time is on your side. Passive investing is a long game. If it's boring, then you're probably doing it right. being young puts you in the best possible position to benefit from the power of compounding. For example, let's show 3 different scenarios. In each one, £100 is invested each month into a passively managed global index fund until the age of 68. If you are not sure what these terms mean, then check out my investment funds video. The average annual return is 7%. In the first scenario, you start at age 30. Well, by age 68, you would have contributed £45,600 of your own money, and it would have earned over £180,000. Providing your return stays at 7%, you could withdraw around £15,000 per year without even touching the total investment pot of £227,000. The more you are able to invest, the more this will be. But let's say you start at age 40. Your total investment pot at age 68 will be £104,474 and could earn you just over £7,000 per year, a significant decrease for starting a decade later. To earn that 15k per year, you would have to invest £220 a month instead of £100. Now let's look at if you start at age 50. Well, after 18 years of investing £100 a month, your investment pot will be £43,323 and will earn you nearly £3,000 a year. If you want to still be able to earn that 15k a year, then you will need to invest £530 a month over those 18 years, totaling in over £114,000 in personal contributions. And that is the power of compounding. If you wait too long, you will have to pay much more to achieve the same results than if you had started sooner. Being young is the best time to start investing, especially for retirement. You are able to invest much smaller amounts and are in a better position to ride the ups and downs of the stock market. For some added context, it is a general rule of thumb that your pension pot should be around 25 times that of your planned annual expenses in retirement. If we take the moderate lifestyle amount of £34,000, then that would require a pension pot of £850,000. Check out this table which shows the current average pension pot sizes depending on age. Those approaching retirement are far off of this amount. If you serve a full career in the military, you'll get close to this amount, but you'll still need to bridge the gap. If you leave the military early, then you will definitely need to fill this gap. This might be in part with a civilian workplace pension scheme, but more likely you'll need to invest to meet the difference, whether this be through a stocks and shares ISA or a SIP. You will need to invest your money to be able to enjoy the later years of your life. I've spent a lot of time talking about retirement in this video and how investing plays a key role in having a prosperous final few decades. I know it can be hard to think that far ahead when you're young, but if you speak to people who are getting closer to retirement, many of them will say that they wish they took this more seriously when they were younger. So do yourself a favour and listen to those who have lived their lives and are telling you where they have gone wrong and what they would do differently if they had the chance. There is wisdom in their words. The amount of people getting out of the army after a full career who say that they wish they were better with money is substantial. It might be boring, it doesn't produce instant results, but investing should be something you take seriously. Your future self will thank you. So, of course, live for today, but don't forget tomorrow. Investing has never been more accessible to the everyday person, and you do not need lots of money to do it. But also, it isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, nor is it guaranteed to be smooth sailing. But with knowledge, responsible planning, and a focus on long-term goals, it can be a powerful tool to build wealth, secure your future, and even create a positive impact on the world. Instead of letting fear paralyze you, empower yourself with information. Start small, diversify, and remember, even small, steady growth beats leaving your money stagnant, vulnerable to inflation, and lost opportunities. Investing isn't a gamble, it's an informed journey. Take the first step and you might be surprised where it leads. Has this video made you think about investing? Or do you invest already? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you liked what you just saw, please hit the subscribe button up there. And if you want to see some more videos, click over there. See you soon.